To have you for the first time on Prime on my media. Prime, how is Bingo and Next doing today?
Well, we are surviving with the new normal. Yeah, so it's challenging, but I think that we are surviving everything, and we are adjusting to everything that is happening, bringing up new measures on how to cope with the situation and how to handle it properly.
As a medical doctor living with COVID-19, many persons are running to you people. Are you up to the task, or are you scared yourself?
We are all...
you find it very normal?
No, we are all worried. All over the world, everybody is worried. All the medical personnel are worried about this. But since we are the ones at the front line, I think we are the ones to be stronger than every other person. So.
You took that oath?
Yes. It's
okay. We as journalists also, we are at the forefront because we have to give the reports in times of war, in times of crisis like this. That is why Far Evis Tayon is always there to give the situation the way it is. Now, let's look at the 7 measures put forward by the government of Cameroon through the Prime Minister last week. There is the compulsory wearing of the face mask. You think that that is the best way? At least it is going to curb the spread from person to person across the nation.
Well, you know, from the onset, I said the way or the manner in which the government is handling this COVID-19 case shows that the government is not the least serious. I keep saying this for the simple reason that in an issue that we have a common enemy, we are expected to have it in a holistic manner, whereby ideas of stakeholders were supposed to be gotten before coming out with particular measures whatsoever they might be. I am surprised that despite the corrections some of us keep giving to the kangaroo government, they still keep carrying out leadership the way they think they can do. And that's why you see us being vulnerable to the COVID ever than before, day in, day out, despite the numerous sing-song government officials sing in their air-conditioned offices out there in Yaoundé. You see, I said earlier, when you look at measures, a proactive government is that government that carries out frequent analysis or assessments of measures put in place within a given period of time. What does it mean? It simply implies that if the government had carried out 13 measures without consulting stakeholders as other countries have done, and then coming back here, the government still gets one morning and is adding other 7 measures, I say we are daydreaming in Yaoundé. That is an indication to tell you that we are dancing Bafia dance on the COVID-19 issue. So the issue of care or protection lies on each and every one with the help of medics. But I said sometimes it looks like the medical corps to have a problem in the country. Because I have been fighting their fight. In Senegal, medical corps were consulted. In Ghana, medical corps, the corps was consulted. In Nigeria, in Algeria, before coming out with decision. And I said, if the Prime Minister and those that govern this country in Yaoundé were serious, before you come up with any measure in the midst of an emergency crisis, that you know that it cuts across the entire class of people, you are supposed to call them as you did in the pre-dialogue issue in Yaoundé. I was saying that I was ashamed that even the medical corps are not even serious because they were expected, the government was expected to have had consultative talks with the National Medical Corps. Because they are the center. Media is coming even right behind in terms of communication. But I'm surprised that each time I bring this issue, medics are quiet, meaning that they are very confident, that they're very okay with the occasion. Whereas, if they were as per se supposed to be at the center of this event, the Minister of Public Health and the government officials were supposed to have started with them. Next, the National Corps of Pharmacists. Next, National Corps of Nurses. Just like that, so when you are through the Medical Corps, they are better placed to tell you which measure to put in place, in what we call accompanying measures.
Yeah, but nothing tells you that. I'm sure the Prime Minister did not take some of these measures without consulting the technicians, especially those of the Ministry of Public Health who...
No, you said technicians. I'm talking about National Medical Corps. They're different from the technicians.
Yeah, but they are members of
they're
members of...
There are two different things we're talking here.
They are members of that corps who work with the government.
No, when you say they're members who work with the government, you know, when you have journalists who work with the government, and you talk with those journalists, it's different from when you come to SNJC,
okay,
and you meet them as a corps.
The private, okay, I'm sure
it's different.
Yes, we raised that during our last debate here, but my question to you was the obligatory use of the face mask. You are the medical doctor, and some people are asking the question how effective that is going to be. Explain to us how it works out.
Okay, with the medical mask, normally the ideal situation would have been confinement. People stay in their houses. But we are living in a reality in Cameroon where there are some people that live day by day.
Yeah, that's why we are talking about the context.
Yes. So they cannot maybe stay in their houses. They might die of hunger there. And also, we are also faced with a problem about social distancing in Cameroon. If you go to Ndokoti, you will understand that social distancing is practically impossible. Now, I think that that's the point from which now wear your mask, because even the mask that the material mask, it's not 100% effective. Yes, but what it does is that if I am coughing, if I want to cough to you, it will reduce the amount of secretions that I will produce. And when the secretions, even if it gets to you, it reduces the amount that you take in, that may penetrate. So thereby preventing spread from somebody that is infected to somebody that is not infected. So basically that's how the mass issue works now.
Yeah, but the fact that it has been made compulsory in Cameroon, to you people, is this a welcome news? Were you worried that people were just moving around without this face mask?
At the beginning, because this virus is a new virus, at the beginning from the report that we had, we saw that this virus could not stay in the air. As you cough it out, it goes and settles on the surfaces. But as new researches are coming up, like the research that was done by was published by the New England Journal of Medicine, that has been spoken about by the WHO also, about that the virus can stay in the air for about 3 hours. So it's with that we are worried now, that people not wearing their masks, it might expose them. So it's a concept that we should welcome it.
Okay, this whole issue of putting on the mask, like the medical doctor is saying, I don't know whether there are certain prescriptions as to what people should use and what they should not use, especially with the fabrication of this mask in most of our tailoring workshops in Cameroon.
Well, as we go around, you see, I've seen many types of masks, but the basic thing is that the layer, one layer is not enough. They should at least have 3 layers, and the material should have cotton. So it's with the cotton material. Even the CDC was prescribing how to use even a tissue paper to prepare the mask. And they talked about another material, polyester, but I don't think that we can have free access to it. So, but if we use our materials that have cotton, but we make the layers to be like 3 layers, but let it not be too thick, because it can suffocate somebody as you put it on.
Yeah, these informations are given by the experts there. The Prime Minister actually has prescribed that these face masks should be done. They should be produced in mass quantity. Do you still think that even at this point of giving these prescriptions, there was need to meet with the technicians so that they give these ideas that the doctor is giving here to those who are going to be producing this locally, because seemingly almost everybody is producing at their local levels?
You know why I say that? When you are in a zigzag manner of governance, you will obviously expect these kind of things to occur. Why do I say so? Like what doctor is saying, for example, I got something on the way, All right. And I only realized that the cotton that was made out of it comes out bit by bit. Which means now that when you put it on your nostrils, it is true it's out of cotton. But we don't know the percentage of the cotton. So when you inhale particle of these cottons again to another greater quantity into your esophagus, and you stand another chance of creating another issue. I'm sure doctor will know that better. So what am I saying? I'm saying that when you see a sleeping government that lacks exactly what it takes to put this kind of decision forward, it's because they fail to meet the respective persons. And why do I say so? Like we will say, no, but there are doctors at the Prime Minister, probably head and all the like. But you know, a grassroots-oriented network, like the National Medical Corps, for example, that will take into consideration doctors both in Yaoundé and out of Yaoundé, those in the hinterlands, those in the private sector, when they bring together their ideologies, both in the private sector and in the public sector, it has more weight than when you look at it, only government approach direction. Now, why do I say so? When you look at the mask issue, I said, if we want to talk about uniformity, now, almost many persons have gone into the production of this mask. Now, without the hygienic condition under which they are producing. And most of the times, as you buy, you start using. People start using immediately under the circumstances they find themselves. Sometimes you might feel that you get up, you forget what you are supposed to take along with you, or you don't have it, you meet it on the way you take it, and then you get into a crowded area you are forced to use without knowing that probably you have to wash it, maybe it is defective. So, the main issue here is that the government has failed and failed woefully, and the doctors have refused to tell the government in that a government of this nature, I don't want to carry out comparative analysis. If we have 1 billion and about 800 million in stock, what does it cost this government to look for persons who produce these things under prescribed norms, under prescribed medical norms? Produce these things even at 150 or 300 or 400, and you get to the population and distribute for free. What does it take? When I got the prime ministerial decree, point number 1 among the 7 points, insisting that as from Monday the 13th, the wearing of masks is compulsory. And I ask myself, do we really have government that reflects on the present situation of this country? Why do I say so? If you go to areas where you have IDPs, you go to Bonabere where you have about 10 persons in the home, and you expect them to get this mask. If you want to talk about medicalized masks, it becomes worse because doctor will tell you that the medicalized ones, they have after about 3 or something, or about 4 hours, I don't know, they expire. I don't know how they do it, but it looks like you have to renew from time to time. Now, those are sold at a pharmacy, for example, about 500 francs. You use it for a particular short time and duration, and you have to change. How many persons can get to that? It means that we are resorting down to the issue where tailors sew at random. You don't even know where they take the dresses. And even when you say somebody should go and disinfect in the house. Now, he has not been properly educated on how to disinfect what he's going to use. So, we are causing one problem by creating another, whereby I said, in a normal reasoning government in Yaoundé, they are supposed to give this contract to specialized units, and once they are produced, they make a routine and distribute for free, so that the day you don't meet somebody putting on his mask, you have every reason to ask him to pay 6,000 as I see on the prescription, and 2,000 if you have it and you're not putting it on.
Doctor, do you think that there was reason to bring people together, say in a town like Douala, to create a local production centers of this mask, train them, school them on what you just said here? Take for Bamenda, do same, go to Garwa, Marwa, and in other cities, so that people get what is required to keep them safe.
Yeah, I'm particularly concerned about the sanitary part of preparing the mask. Like normally the people who are preparing the mask, they should prepare it under like sanitary conditions. Their hands should be washed, or they should sanitize. And when they prepare the mask, if the mask is supposed to be sterile, they put it maybe in a paper, and so I think it would have been really necessary for people to be educated. And I think the media is also can play its part.
Yeah, we just did a recording today with a medical doctor, Dr. Nick Ngwanyam, who is going to be talking about almost all of what you are explaining there, so that we can play it as many times as possible for people to understand
how to prepare the mask.
Yes.
So I think that's another way of reaching out to the people. So I usually I'm more optimistic. Like, it's not to look at how bad the situation is going, but it's to look for ways to ameliorate it. So we look for ways in which we can intervene and help the people to know how to prepare this mask. And now many people are using it as a way of getting money for themselves. But Cameroonians should also understand that if they don't prepare this mask the way it's supposed to be prepared, they stand a chance of infecting another person. And when somebody is infected, the guarantee that the person can infect you is very high. The guarantee that the person can infect someone else close to you. So this thing is something that we have to work in a community to fight it.
We have to work in a community to fight it. The communique by the Prime Minister says that a failure to respect these norms, you're going to be punished, paying up to the sum of 6,000 francs CFA. Let us look at the enforceability of this measure. When you look at an average Cameroonian, you see, anyway, everybody should be able to protect themselves here. But is this not also an opportunity to enrich some people? I don't know. Has the government given enough time for people to warning for people to get this mask so that they swing into this wave of sanctions?
You know, I am laughing because, as I said, we are orphans. Cameroonians, I consider them as orphans. And orphans in the sense that people that take decision in Yaoundé without taking cognizance of the fact that they should be looking at measures that are very visible. Simply talk because they want to talk. For example, you know, on Friday even, uniform officers began enforcing. Because on my way to Boya, a uniform officer was telling me that I'm not putting on my mask. I said, but the law starts on Monday. I told you that no, but you know, there's a Minister of Transport on that says yam done, yam not done, all the like, you know. And we had to talk for some time, and I told him that no, but I think that when when two old laws are concerned, that which come from the superior order overrides the junior one, and that's why he had to chill. But then they started collecting money already for those for persons. And today even, as I let you know, around Moriko, around the Sosoliso area, a handful of persons were already bundled, and they started bundling them right from yesterday in the evening, before even the Monday. And many of them have paid fabulous sums of money. Now, you see why I say Yaoundé is redundant, which means their thinking mentality has expired. Why do I say so? When you talk about enforcing laws, as I said, the first problem we have is that the system has no communication plan. I will say this today, tomorrow, and after tomorrow. It's already a worry. Because when you look at WHO, when it comes to polio, and honestly fight against malaria, if you look at it, they have perfect communication plan. And they take into consideration the communication that gets right into the villages. That's why you see polio even in the hinterlands. And you see sometimes people come and they use community radios who produce policy spots or spots about polio, even in the dialect. That's what they call the communication plan. Now, I think one of the communications the Prime Minister talks about even traditional authorities.
Proper sensitization, we are going to come to that.
All right. Now, so if we look at this issue of the enforcement of the law, now, where is it found wanting? I have said all those advisors at the Prime Minister's office are supposed to go on leave, as I speak now, because they are earning state money for no work done. If Prime Minister brought this kind of order, insisting that if you don't put on a face mask, which is for the wrong because the communication level has not, the time lapse is too short. That's why you see people, what's what call kotamnelam. Imagine this is what you call a mask. It's an abuse. What I have here. Now, but what do you find it? People now are forced to get it in order to escape the fine. And no more an issue of preventing COVID-19. Now, people want to have it. When you are getting towards where there's a uniform officer, you put it on. When you are passing through, you remove it. At the end, it's not serving the purpose as per se. But in the issue of what the Prime Minister said, as I said, the advisors who refuse doing their job by advising what to do. When we talk about fines, perfect fines are done in relation to perfect measures. What does it mean? You say that, all right, for those who don't have their mask, instead of even insisting on the fine, as I've said, at any checkpoint, there is supposed to be medical staff with medicalized mask. So when you come and you don't have, they push you one corner, you stand there. If you have no protection, you stay there, and they can remain in custody until somebody sends you money to buy it. It will do us a lot of good. Now, when you say if you don't have it, 6,000. If you have it and you're not putting on 2,000, you have not specified who is collecting the money and where is it going to. You see why I say it's a redundant government? Because in a normal situation, if you look at the fight against overspeeding on the highway Douala Yaoundé, the traffic control there, what happens? They have their receipt there. Once what we call the radar discovers you on overspeeding, they stop you, then you pay 25,000. They give you a receipt on the spot, which means it's accountable for in the state treasury. Now, the prime minister who gave this order simply said uniform officers should start collecting 6,000 and 2,000 francs to put in their pocket, which means it's a criminal offense because he wants them to collect money, but he does not say that the money should be channeled into the state coffers.
Yes, okay.
It's a worry.
Okay, in that release by the prime minister after the meeting, is he has okayed the production of medicine. I'm talking about chloroquine here and hand sanitizers and other related issues that may be used to fight COVID-19. This should be a very great news for you guys, doctor.
It's great news, but each day we have new studies being released which are worrisome because now, like a study that was done, I think I've forgotten the country, they did a study on some patients that were experimented with chloroquine.
Chloroquine, yeah.
And they found that some of them, they develop cardiac complications, which are normal complications of chloroquine. But one specification of the study showed that it's at high doses. So we don't know if the doses we will give were not. But the good news also is that we are used to chloroquine as Africans because we've had malaria, and most of us grow up taking quinine-based products. So approving chloroquine, which has been shown to work for COVID-19, is a good thing for the government, even though the WHO has not put check there, the FDA has not approved the drug, but each country is deciding on their own whether they should institute it and treat their patients with it, weighing the risks. The countries decide on their own. So if our country has decided like that, I would say that it's a good thing. Yes, because for now, we really need something.
You really need something?
Yes, to start giving those patients. We don't want to wait for them to reach the point that they need ventilators because we don't have them.
Yeah, but medical doctors or those in the medical domain are the technicians, they are the experts in the domain. Did they need to wait for the prime minister to give an okay for them to prefer solutions to the worries of the society?
Given that the FDA has not approved the drug, it has to be like the ministry that has to approve for us to prescribe the drugs. So that is a covering. Because if you go ahead, like even me working in Bopi, if I have a patient I suspect of COVID-19, and if the patient has not been tested, I have no right to treat that patient with chloroquine. I have no right to take it. Prescribing it is illegal. So at a certain point,
you rather watch the patient die? Not
watch the patient die. You have to refer the patient to the centers that have been approved to treat them. Because for now, Bopi is not approved to treat COVID-19. So we cannot treat any patient.
In the case of typical case of Douala, what happens?
Typical case of Douala, any case that we have that is a suspected case, what we do is we give the patient a mask. And then we try to look for a suitable transportation means and transport the patient either to Lakantini or to Yassa, to the hospitals that have been approved. And the patients, when the patients go there, they are usually oriented because we call the patients for feedback. Some of them, when they go, they give them advice, tell them to go home, confine themselves, and they probably collect the sample, and then they will come after for tests for the results. The orientation there is not really clear for me. Yes, but basically that's what happened. Most hospitals that do not take care of these patients, they have to refer to. But when you are referring, you should have written in the book to say that this is a suspected case, and you make sure you give the patient a mask and the carer a mask.
Okay. One of the measures also taken far Tayon is the setting up of specialized COVID-19 treatment centers in all 10 regional capitals. Hospitals will take care of those infected. Also, that was something that you people have been yearning for?
Yes. Yeah, the more centers are made to, and eventually, because the cases keep increasing, definitely most of the centers they have chosen will get overwhelmed with the cases, and the ministry will have to extend to other facilities. So most of facilities are already in their minds preparing that eventually probably they will be identified as quarantined.
From every indication, the government is taking the right steps towards the right direction. At least each region is going to have a center now, and you expect it to be moved to the divisional and sub-divisional levels in the weeks, months ahead?
Yeah, obviously that's what I had said here earlier when they were still managing Central Pasteur there in Yaoundé for quite almost above a month before Douala had to get another testing center here. But you know, my worry here is the implementation and the rapidity of that decision, you know, because we are quick at making speeches. And I said, where we are is not time for speeches any longer. When you see any country that people talk a lot, like talkative, know that they can do very little. Because communication will come and talk its own. People are on Twitter every day. This is not the period of over-talking. This is a period of light talk and action. Now, when you go to look at it at the centers we're talking about here, good, Limbe could have, Boya would have, and all the others we have. Now, what we are more interested in is equally the accommodation centers. Because we have cases where people have been suspected and they are sent home to quarantine themselves while waiting for test.
Yeah, but the centers have been identified.
Yeah.
There is a center now in Douala and Yassa. And then I'm sure one in, I don't know whether it's Olymbe in Yaoundé.
No, Olymbe, the sports complex around there, in Yaoundé there. You get the point. Now, what I was saying is this. You know, we are living in a situation whereby the government mixes beans and Irish potatoes at random and expects results to come out. What do I expect, as I was saying? I think we are at the point that we are supposed to have, even the centers we are talking about. When you go to these centers, which are normally attached to hospitals, as usual, apart from the Olymbe issue that is on this around the sport complex there, you start asking yourself whether we are really serious. I've said earlier that if we have a government that listens to what people say, because they are not all that knowing, they are supposed to know that even the centers they are created as of now have question marks on them. Because, as I said, it is abnormal to take a suspected case, you attach to a hospital unit, and you say that that's a center. What I say is that the level at which the disease is spread, the level at which it becomes dangerous in terms of spreading so long as people are around and all the like, tells you that we are supposed to have what we call isolation centers, which will be medicalized and not sports centers transferred to be isolation medical centers. So what am I saying? If you go, as I said earlier, that we are not even serious, because if we are serious, I said, we have vast land isolated, just between Yaoundé and Douala. You could imagine around Boumyobe, wherever Ezeka, we have quite enough land that government would have cleared that and make that an accommodation center and a reference center. And I said, if Yaoundé was Yaoundé as per se, that knows what they are doing, it would have meant that when you invest money in this center and you start with temporary structure, within 2 weeks to 1 month, the structures are completed. It means that we are indirectly building a national disease control center for the country. Because after COVID, we might have other illnesses that will come up. And so you will always have those centers to be put to use at all times. Now, when we begin to talk about centers that are attached to hospitals, to medicalized centers, it means that we still have the risk. Because once you are not completely isolated, the chances of you living with people around you in a hospital, whether it's the room that's been isolated or not, and mingling with people, the possibility of transferring it to them is still very possible and still very high. And so I said that when we look at things critically, sometimes I see people jubilate. Oh, the government has said they will be spread to over 10 regions. The question is, how would that be done? When would that be done? Of course, I still see medical doctors like my doctor here. They still not even have any cause like to ask, but with the testing kit we have, can we not go further? Because we're talking about going further. When you have a machine that takes only your temperature, that takes your temperature, and you are getting into Boya, for example, on Mungo Bridge, and by 5 o'clock the doctors have left, and from 5 to 6 in the morning to 7 in the morning before they come back, thousands of persons have entered Boya, Limbe, Moyoka, and all the like. What becomes of them? And so, what we think is that the medical corps, even if they are not consulted, are supposed to be proposing to government that we will need a more, in all those checkpoints where they are testing, we will need a little bit of sophisticated temporal machines that could be movable. So when you go there, it's not only about the issue of temperature, because fever gives temperature. Running stomach gives you high temperature. If you have a toothache, alone gives you high temperature. Doctor knows about what I'm talking about. If you have severe earache, it gives you high temperature. And so at the end, we're working on suspected cases, whereas the issue that would have been should be that away from that test kit that they have, that works only on temperature, it would have been good. They know what could be added. Some other medical measures that could do the testing further. So we will be a little bit, even not 100%, we could be closer to about 80% sure that people have passed through this testing mechanism, at least, are far-fetched. Of course, doctor will tell you that there are times that from their studies, because I've been reading to online, that you could have it and within 14 days, it is not yet manifesting in you. If you have it, whether it's 7 days or 10 days or 14 days, and it is not yet manifesting, I mean in terms of high temperature, because they will tell you from what we are reading on the health journals that it reacts on persons differently. Some persons within the first early days, you have high temperature, or that sometimes the temperature will still be cold depending on the resistance of their immune system. So it still tells you that medics are supposed to think further and tell the government that, please, away from the testing kit.
Okay.
We could go further.
Okay, I'm sure Dr. Anita is going to, but I don't know whether her health, you work with CBC.
Mm-hmm.
So
very powerful health center, very good.
They have what they can do. They are there to provide solutions and not necessarily to create tensions, I'm sure. But let us take some televiewers who are watching. Mr. Liu and Mr. Fa and Doctor, welcome. I was waiting patiently for the program. The government is a kangaroo borrowed from my bro Fa. Today at Kamwata office in Dedo, we still had crowds and no social distancing, and I don't know what this government is good at, or only punishing the poor masses. All recommendations given by Fa are all very good. If not, it will enrich the military. But good, a thing that Corona is a respecter of no man. Let them be joking. Doctor 2, have you heard of your colleague who has been arrested since a month for no crime, and it has caused doctors to start running from rural areas because these people are not respected? Okay, doctor, I advise you all to stand up, for if not, tomorrow might be. Thank you. Other countries have shown us those who recover to thank God and testify, except Cameroon. What a shame. Bless is writing. Bless, good evening to you. This one says, good evening. In the studio, kudos to the wonderful job Mr. Elvis is doing by putting some sense in the head of the kangaroo government. I wish the Prime Minister can take you as his personal advisor. How can the government punish a common man in the street who barely afford food to put on his table, to buy a mask, or pay a fine without any accompanying measures? Where is the money going to do? This is not seriousness at all. This is making the poor poorer and the rich richer. The COVID-19 has left Cameroonians in the mercy of God and not in the mercy of the government. Bila, writing from Yaoundé. Okay, Bila, good evening. This one reads, hello, Mr. Leo. Special greetings to the kangaroo man. I must confess that if not of the fine imposed by the government or the Prime Minister, I won't be putting on face mask, because it won't change anything given that our markets are still very much tight. What we need now is total lockdown in the affected regions and to stop inter-urban transportation in the non-affected regions. Okay, Paul Ngong is writing from Kumba, K-Town. Doctor, they are raising some worries here. Televiewers think that you heard them. Are you too comfortable with the situation? And then the government is talking about the creation of centers where masks massive masks are going to be produced, I'm sure, through SICAM. And then the setting up of these regional centers, giving an okay for the production of chloroquine and hand sanitizers. Is this giving hope to Cameroonians who were asking many questions as to whether government actually bothered about their welfare?
One thing that I came to realize about after looking at how this COVID-19 has affected other countries and the way the population is responding, I'm not belittling how we are responding because it's difficult for us. Like even in the hospitals, as you see some mothers, they cannot, you see them, they cannot afford the mask. They are just like, whatever wants to happen, let it happen. But the truth is just that no matter what will be done, it might never be enough. That's just the truth. You see, even with the example of Trump, all what he is doing,
he's still receiving the bashing from...
Yes, from everywhere. Yeah. Yes. So with that in mind, we should understand that we'll always expect this response from the population. But I want to go past that, yes, because we are living in a new reality in which we have to not really focus. Now we are like, how do we get through this? That's the big question that we should be asking ourselves. How do we adjust to this? So it's not really about whatever the government is doing, however way it can help you, you take it and then you put in your own best and you continue to work on it. And I wanted to say something, one very important thing about the issue of quarantine. Like, COVID-19 is, if you are infected, it's not everybody that goes on to have severe infection. In most countries, hospitals are reserved for those that are severely ill. So we might not really have like confinement centers for isolation centers for everybody infected with COVID-19. So the CDC is recommending that every person in their houses, which might be very difficult for some certain populations of people. Like Mr. Farr was talking about the IDPs. It's a very sad situation because you have 10 people living in one house. The recommendation of the CDC is that every house, they should like keep one room in mind, because we are going to a place where probably most of us might get infected. We should be prepared psychologically already for that. And you should be prepared that your brother or your sister at home can get infected and might not have space in the hospital to be quarantined. And you will have to quarantine the person in the house. So the Center for Disease Control actually recommends that every household should put aside a room for confinement. And there are prescriptions, like, because most people, there are people that have been calling me and telling me that maybe I have cough, catarrh, and all those things. There are sometimes that it can just be common cold. And if you don't have severe symptoms, most at times in many other countries, they will just ask you to stay at home and monitor your symptoms. And if you monitor your symptoms, then it gets worse here, you can contact the hospital. But while you are staying at home, there are measures that you are supposed to take. You are supposed to avoid using the same utensils as other people. They are supposed to disinfect surfaces more frequently. And you are not supposed to, like, all the preventive measures. You wash your hands frequently, and you keep your distance from people. So we should start preparing for this, because a time will come when you might have to, like the Prime Minister of Canada had to quarantine his wife in his house. So you might have to quarantine your wife in your house and quarantine with your wife, because if your wife is infected, you are exposed. So the two of you it will be better the two of you get quarantined. So we should start preparing ourselves.
No, the majority of Cameroonians, you have 10 persons living in 2 rooms. They have 10 persons living in 1 room. How do we survive with that, doctor?
That's the problem. When I read that, I was like,
people should start clearing bushes around their communities.
I don't know how we adapt to this. Maybe the government should start looking into that, because at a certain point, the hospitals, no matter how many hospitals we use, it will not be enough to confine all the cases that we will have. So we might start looking into how we will be isolating people at home, because that's the sad reality.
Yeah, doctor is painting a very, very scary picture here. I don't know, but I think that away from the government circles, the municipalities should already start thinking about this. Village community traditional council should start thinking about this, maybe clearing up bushes and then raising, I don't know, because homes can definitely not take the case of Douala. Look at how congested Douala is. If we were to go by the situation painted by Dr. How do we cope?
Now, if I come in, as I said, the whole issue, people will tell you, do your own effort the way you can. That's what we have been doing. We have been trying our own special effort the way we can. But as I said, when you have a redundant government, the possibility of the issue not helping you because you don't have a perfect lead is a problem. As you can see, as I said, when you come to my media prime, the education carried out by my media prime is because my media prime is just patriotic. You understand? Now, if you look at doctor comes here and talks, our own initiative, another doctor will come. There's another doctor who might not have time to come because he thinks he has other important things to do. Now, what am I saying? We are supposed to have a government that canalizes the entire procedure. So what Dr. A will say is something that Dr. B will say. You get the point. One doctor will tell you that, all right, some people could be contacted when the symptoms could start showing, or the disease stays in the air for about 3 hours. Another doctor will tell you 4 hours. Another doctor will tell you probably 5 hours, depending on which direction is reading and from which source is reading. And so what I say is that the error we have is because Yaoundé has refused to give us the leeway. Why have they refused? Because they have refused to consult the stakeholders. I keep saying stakeholders. Because when you are made a minister, it does not mean that you are all-knowing. When you are made a director, it does not mean that you are all-knowing. But the ability to meet the various stakeholders, market women, buy and sell them, the woman who sells fish, those who sell what we call second-hand dresses, in their associations are representatives, because you cannot meet all. When you meet these various facets, they will give you their own, what we call their own idea as how to combat it in their own direction. You now add with what the medical corps have said, you're going to come out with something well. Now look at the issue of space, like what doctor is saying. That is what is supposed to be done. Because in civilized countries, they deal with space. You don't go into a house like in Europe where you have fridge is in the parlor, a big, in those days, TV that occupies space is there, and then it's choked up that they don't have space. No, they don't function like that. They function with light furniture that creates space in the arena. Now with us, it doesn't go. If you want us, as you mentioned, the issue of councils, traditional law and all the like, the worst of it in this country is that we began this fight without a running budget. You cannot talk in the air. Because if you see WHO succeed in the fight against malaria, they pay radio stations for that. They pay those who go and do traditional calling drum to send the message across. Money is spent a lot by WHO to get the fight of malaria out of this country, out of the continent. And so, in a government of this nature without a functioning budget, or a budget that has no specification, because they will tell you we are raising, Head of State has given 1 billion, A has given 250 million, B has given 100 million, but nobody said that this is how it is going to be used. This is the sub-budget heads of this overall budget. It becomes a worry. Like as I said, if councils have additional assistance from the government, they could carve an entire big area and they pitch what we call temporary tents. It's possible. If you put temporary tents, you could have some persons who have cases that would have been quarantined in the houses, because even in the house, as I said, Mr. Leo, the government has not given any proper communication plan. How do you produce your sanitizers? It is private media and private leaders who carry out the initiative. Now, government tells you in the minister's communique, in the prime minister's communique, that chloroquine will be produced, even the WHO has not validated it. And they tell you that away from that, there will be hand sanitizers produced and all the like. But they are not telling you where it will be given for free. You get the point. These are initiatives that are supposed to be made clear from the onset in a government that has the people at heart. We have given order for chloroquine to be produced, to be distributed for free. We have given order for hand sanitizer to be produced and mask to be because when you do it to sell it again, it defeats the purpose of you reaching to everyone, because I said we don't have equal economic powers. There are people in Douala, I see Mr. Leo, who barely survive in a single meal a day, meaning some of them live less than $1 per day in Douala. So what about their own case? It means that because they don't have the money to purchase these things, and there are in their houses about 10 of them, how do they go about it? So you see, the whole issue is what we call communication plan. As I said, if government had made, like she is of the communication unit, for example, or made a medical core communication plan, or whatever they do, I don't know, medical communication, for example, you people do that normally. If the government decided that they want to strengthen the capacity of...
Yeah, but you are answering a question I was going to ask you, because one of the measures has to do with a campaign for Cameroonians to be screened. That is, they should opt to come up to screen themselves so that they identify who is affected or not. That is something that you are going to answer. But this campaign falls in line with education, like you are saying.
Mm-hmm. Well, it falls in line with education. Coming out voluntarily to be tested, like they were doing a campaign on HIV and other like, it's a good thing. But what are the enabling environments? I come out to be tested. I am negative. The next day I'm hustling and Bopi market. It means I should be coming for tests every day. Because I come out for testing, I go back to Bopi market, it's overcrowded. I'm at New Bell market, it's overcrowded. You discover that you could be tested today, negative, and the next 2, 3, or 5 days, you are positive. So which means that the accompanying measures must be put. I've said Yaoundé just reasons because they want to talk. Because when you talk about testing, as we are talking about, you must be able to look at, if people come out for testing, how many times do they come?
But he's raising a point, Doctor. You are a member of the medical corps. They say everybody should come for testing. If today the entire Douala comes out for testing, do we have capacity to contain that? And even after the testing, what is the guarantee that we are not going to contract this next time? Or the person is going to be educated on how to carry themselves after the testing?
About the mass testing, I would say that it's a good initiative, because from the analysis of some experts all over the world, because if you see in some countries, in Italy, because we've been talking about confinement, total lockdown. They've done total lockdown in Italy. It didn't work. They still have new cases. They still have death. They've done total lockdown in the US. It's not working. So one scientist was saying that if a German scientist was saying if they do total lockdown and they do mass testing, the two of them together, it can work effectively.
So they easily identify those who are
yes. But now, doing the mass testing, it also helps, because first thing is that it identifies all those that can infect you and brings them out. Those that are not infected keeps them out. So it's a way of separating the two populations. So there is no guarantee with COVID-19. Even if you get infected and you get cured, there is no guarantee
that you will not
get infected again. There's no 100%, even though there are many studies showing that you can produce antibodies that will help you fight the infection, prevent you from getting infected. But also, it can prevent you you can still get infected, but usually the second infection cannot be as severe as the first infection. And also there is, on the news on CNN, they were talking about the fact that you are cured does not mean that you cannot infect other people. So if you look at the whole scenario of COVID-19, there are no guarantees surrounded around this disease. So we just have to do the best that we can do. And the best that we can do is separate the population. And if we do a mass testing, we get all those that are positive, we put aside, get those that are negative, put aside. And as you said, it should be accompanied with sensitization, with constant, like, as you are negative, there is no guarantee that you will not be positive tomorrow. So you have to practice the preventive measures, which are this. As you're positive, it's not that it's a death sentence, but you have to. So it's a way. I think the mass testing is a good strategy in a time like this.
What are the difficulties associated with getting people to be tested?
Now, the main difficulty that we have is information. You will be amazed with so many things that people believe out there. So there is somebody, there are even whites putting videos that no, they should not do, they should not allow, because when you want to do the test, they have to do a nasopharyngeal swab. So they send a cotton bud, a long cotton bud, into your nostrils and get a swab from there. That's what they test for the virus. So some people will say that it's a way of vaccinating. So you will be amazed. Some people even say that the temperatures that they take is the 666 mark. So we are faced with two wars. We are fighting COVID-19 and we are fighting wrong information. We are fighting all these fake news that are out there.
The fake news, is it not also because of the limited amount of sensitization education, like Fa was saying? There is need to get people to understand very well. We need experts like you on the platform almost every day to be informing people, educating people on what this is and what it is not.
Yes, sensitization is very important, but scientists have proven that education still is not 100% sure. I will prove that by the fact that you will sit and you are talking to a patient and you are advising the patient. There are some patients that even come to the hospital and they are hiding their symptoms.
They have other beliefs.
Yes, they have other beliefs. You are explaining it to them that this is what is happening, and they don't believe you. Maybe. So there is still that factor of you might sensitize all you want, but it still depends on the people if they will accept the information or reject it.
That a detailed study is supposed to have been done, like Fa is saying, to understand the cultural beliefs of the people, because maybe this person is not getting your information because he believes in his or her man of God, and then others believe in their traditional healers. Maybe they have somebody they believe in their village who says that it's only through this help that this can be cured.
Yeah, you know, like what doctor is saying, you always have people like that who have variations in terms of reactions towards education and all the like. But as I said, you know, when you look at the case of Italy, you know, the error Italy did was that when the case started, Italy ignored it. I repeat, Italy undermined the few early cases that came there. Before they could think of putting in place the measures they have now, it had gone very wide. So what am I saying? If you compare to Cameroon, I say we are still playing politics with COVID-19. Because we are Africans who are receiving at the early stage are at the better place to put the various measures. And you see, before even Italy is quarantining people, the thing had spread far before they could even think of doing the quarantine. But I think that we are in Cameroon, and the problem I have with Yaoundé government is the fact that they don't want to sacrifice and to spend. It's like I should go about my day activities, which is still risky because I'll be found in overcrowded areas. At the same time, you are telling me I should avoid COVID-19. I should not be in crowded areas. I am coming from Boya today. At my 17, they pick up police van that was transporting police uniform officers in that hillocks. There were more than 20 of them inside. You could get a point. If you stand here at Bonaberry, the military trucks that are passing by to go to the southwest, if you look at how many of them are there, they don't respect the social distances that the Ministry of Public Health is saying. So at the end of it, I say we are still playing politics. But the main problem, worry I have here is that we have been complaining and saying that a government that is serious, because the same measure that happens in Korea or in Spain does not necessarily mean that it will be the same thing that will happen here. That's why the environments vary. The sociological components of each country varies. That's why I said that a normal country that functions with normal brains, you will do consultations. Because as a new illness, just like what doctor is saying, you cannot sit in a ministerial meeting and give decisions that will work well, because you need to be revising them every 5 days or 1 week. But in a case where you are consulting, because the man who is from Mbopi, like she is in Mbopi, a crowded area, if she's in that meeting in a medical corps, the experience she will give will be different from a technical advisor who is a professor of medicines at the Ministry of Public Health over there. There are two different scenarios we're talking here. You get the point. Now the medical doctor who comes from Akwaya, in a remote area where they probably even have signals, if that doctor is in that meeting, in the communication plan, the doctor will take into consideration the fact that no, we don't have my media prime signals there. We don't have power supply there. So I think that we should use this system traditionally to get to the chiefs, and I think that we should use this amount of money to encourage them so that they should take it serious. You see, this is what we call consultation to come up with an entire plan. So by the time you are giving out your measures, they will be realistic on the ground. All these measures, 7 plus 13, are zero measures. Why? Because they keep increasing day in, day out. And they are not consulting anybody because they feel all what they have decided is the gospel thing, they should move on. So, in the case of where we find ourselves, Mr. Leo, the bitter truth is that I have been saying, whether Yahweh listens or Yahweh does not listen, if they don't listen, as the days go by, we are climbing 1,000, 1,500. And before they know it, what happened to Spain? Because Spain underestimated it, might meet us today.
God forbid.
In this case, no, we don't pray, but you know, we don't live with this kind of illness. You use scientific approach. You don't live on faith. But I said, no, let us just be hoping, because if God gives you the wisdom to put in place the necessary measures that man thinks you can put at your disposal, and you are playing hanky-panky game with it, it means that you are inviting the worst to come. Now, look at the issues of the COVID we are talking now, at where we find ourselves today. Now, I said, the government is simple. If other countries could cut out money and give to the loan electricity company and water company to increase their supply, because when we talk about wash hands, we forget to understand there are areas that taps are not flowing. How do they wash their hands? It means they're minimizing water, because they need water, they need to use water. In that case, they stand a danger of not doing the hand washing properly. So in this case, what the government should have done, Mr. Liu, I have been telling them over and over, quarantine is not 100%, but it will give you over 70% of the results you need. Okay. If you quarantine the towns affected, southwest, littoral, center, and south, and you make available these social amenities, as I've said, and you put them tax-free for about 2 or 3 months, you begin to check now, even door by door, testing and sensitization. It will make a lot of sense. Away from that, and minus the communication plan, which the government does not even have as of now, we are bound to face the worst if God does not intervene to rescue us as we speak.
Okay, lots of messages. I will take 4 or 5 of them. Good evening, Mr. Liu. It's Emmanuel from Bamenda, Tabesi. Good evening. I greet you all. Okay, Emmanuel, we greet you too. Glad to know. Good evening, Mr. Liu, Mr. Elvis, and Dr. Anita. You are right on the point, Mr. Elvis. The leaders of this Cameroon government really need to go for retirement for new leaders. Wisdom is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, or Wisdom. Good. The government is unable to give face masks to all Cameroonians, but they are saying that anyone who caught without face masks will be charged with the sum of 6,000 francs. In which account is the money going to? Last week, policemen took documents from drivers and collected at least 50,000. Where is the money going to? It's a shame to see our government making one mistake to another just because of money. Ojoka Man writing from Kumba. Pa Aku writing from Bomaka in Boya. Thanks for the program. If toll gates operate for 24 hours, why can the control at Mungo Bridge not operate for 24 hours? Okay. Good evening. It's Atem. Atem, we don't know where you're writing from. Good evening, Mr. Leo. Good evening to my best friend, Mr. Fu Elvis. Shuaibu from Yaoundé. Cameroonians should know that it's all about them. No leader cares about them. If government can't help his population at this difficult time. Good evening to you. Mr. Leo, good evening, and special one to the Kangaroo Man. Giving the Kangaroo Man time to speak makes the program very interesting. It is also hopeless for reasons to sleep with hopes for a better tomorrow. We live in a country undoubtedly controlled by people who do not love us. Mr. Liu, as far as COVID-19 is concerned, the common man needs continuous education to be responsible for their lives and universal testing. Mr. Ewang is writing from Kumba. Greetings, Mr. Liu. What enable environment that has been guaranteed to crack down the pandemic in such a diverse society like Cameroon? What consultative talk has been conducted in the various regions too before the measures taken by the government? Lon George is writing from Yaoundé. Okay, Atem, please tell us where you are writing from. Good evening. Good evening to you. Good evening, sirs. To me, saying that anyone seen without a mask will pay 6,000 francs is completely illogical in the context of fighting this virus. Has 6,000 francs become an imaginary mask? Walters is writing from Yaoundé. Good program. The Romanos is writing from Kribi. Cameroonians are maltreated in China. What is the reaction of the Minister of External Relations? He and other ministers only sit and talk about Kamto. Police will get rich because of mask. Good evening to Far Evis Tayon. Good evening to the wonderful team on board. The government measures of Yaoundé is like a toothless dog that can bark but not bite. Okay? Taylor V is writing from Yaoundé. Hello, greetings to you guys in the studio, especially to Mr. Elvis. I'm a big fan about the COVID-19. We all need to be responsible enough to fight this virus. Milano is writing from Mutengene. Good evening in the studio. I hear the last day when they have a case, they look for a more suitable means to transport the patient. Okay? Let her please explain to us what she means by most suitable cost. That statement is really not clear. Doctor, okay, most suitable means, okay. Good evening once more, Mr. Leo. I like the program. The government puts measures and asks people to obey them or face sanctions, but fail to put accompanying measures. Okay. Doctor, I don't know whether you have an answer to the television who was writing there, but I wanted us to look at social distancing in the context of Cameroon. You work in a health facility, you go to the market, you go to other places, I'm sure bars during the day. Is it possible, even cars that are plying our inter-urban highway, is it possible in Cameroon's context to respect social distancing as prescribed by the government?
Well, I would not say it's impossible, but given the state of our cities, it's practically impossible to practice this social distancing. Even like in the hospitals, you find there are so many crowds there. Even when you go like to banks, banks are trying to respect it. But what they do is that they tell people to stand outside on the line. And when they stand outside on the line, they still stand and they are choked up. So it defeats that purpose. It defeats the purpose. So it's a bit difficult. And I think it's with the mind of Cameroonians. We have that mindset of, if I don't fight to get in, I might not get in. So standing on the line and maintaining a social distance. Like personally, I take it like a personal thing to maintain the social distance. Even when I go maybe to buy something, you are standing there and I just give my space. If there's somebody standing there, people standing there to buy, I tell you what I want and I give my space. So at the level of social distancing, it's more of a personal issue. Because no matter what the government does, the government will never come and try to pull two people aside that you people should social distance. I think it's at the personal level. But with the nature of our markets, with the nature of some of our areas, Dokoti is the famous.
Even our living rooms, yeah?
Some of our living rooms.
A tiny room that contains 12 persons. How do you?
So that's why I say it's practically impossible. And I think that this is maybe one of the reasons why they made the use of masks, that everybody, yes, for everybody. Because it's difficult. If you can maintain social distance from somebody, you will know that. But the main thing about social distancing is that you should maintain social distancing mostly from people that are sick. But the thing is, you don't know who is sick and who is not, and who will cough into your face. So if we also take as a responsibility to cover our cough and sneeze, like you want to cough, you cough into your shoulder, or you use the tissue, you cough into the tissue and discard it immediately. I might feel safer beside you. So the whole thing boils down to us.
Yeah, but it also goes with sensitization and education. Many people may prefer to do it this way and protect others than going masked.
Yeah, before there was sensitization, well, I don't know the extent to which it has gone, because there are some places in Cameroon that they don't have access to TV, maybe. I don't know if there's door-to-door sensitization. So before, we've talked about like cough etiquette. You cough into your shoulder, you cough into a tissue. So even with that, when patients come to the hospital, even if you can practice those cough etiquettes, we'll still give you a mask. So to a certain extent, the mask will still have its place.
The mask will still have its place. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I believe charging people unable to wear mask is not a good idea. Whether we should try to make this mask available to all and for free. This is the first time I'm watching your program. It is a splendid idea and very educative too. Odette is writing from Kumba. We're glad to hear from you, Odette. Good evening, Mr. Leo. This is Ngan Divine from Yaoundé. I'm ashamed of the government's approach to handle this pandemic. It's a child's play. Let them rethink or redesign. They don't love this country. Good evening to everyone in the house, most especially to Mr. Elvis, my fellow Cameroonians. Just do your best to stay safe by washing your hands regularly and keeping social distancing. This government is not serious. Do not count on them. Vianney is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to the panel and especially to Mr. Fa. Elvis, the idea of the fine is totally out of place. When you pay the 6,000 francs for not wearing a mask, what next? Is the money an imaginary mask, and will one be provided to you after one makes the payment? Desmond is writing from Douala here. Good evening to you all in the studio. The government is talking about arresting anyone not wearing the mask when they haven't provided free mask, nor the military themselves wearing the mask. Thank you, Mr. Fa Elvis, for telling them the truth. Williams reporting from Douala. Williams, good evening. Good evening, Mr. Kum. Somebody has no 300 francs to buy a mask, but will pay a fine of 6,000 francs. Yeah. Funny indeed. This one says, greetings to you also. Good evening, Mr. Leo. The government imposes on people to put on face masks without providing a mask. What kind of country is that? The leaders does not care about their citizens. Mr. Elvis Divine writing from Kumba. Good evening, Leo. As far as this COVID-19 is concerned, only God alone can save us. I repeat, only God can redeem us. It's Shay John writing from Yaoundé. Yali writing from Boya says, good evening, Mr. Liu and the panelists. We are in the country where ministers take decisions without consulting the related experts. How does wearing a mask stop an infected person from contaminating others? We are having over 800 cases, but the measures taken by our states are measures are below 100 cases. Wali, good evening. Hello, the government is unable to give face masks to all Cameroonians, but they are saying that anyone caught without a mask should pay 6,000 francs. Okay. When I listen to Melinda Gates, the wife of billionaire businessman Bill Gates, speaking over the CNN on the effects of coronavirus in the third world countries, tears must almost run down my eyes. Melinda Gates said that she sees dead bodies littered all over the streets of Africa if care is not taken because of their very poor and weak health systems. If we look at what is happening in Ecuador with dead bodies littered all over the place, we see the true picture of what awaits Africa if not assisted. Okay, Bila is writing from Yaoundé. Good evening to you, Bila. Good evening to you people in the studio there. Government is saying there that he does not have money now. Please, where did they take money to provide computers to students? Okay. Good evening to you all. Prime R, in the cases of death in the condemned person, we are afraid of our brothers and sisters. There is Prince Will in Yaoundé. Good evening, Leo. Our government can just ask us to wash our hands, but we don't have even the water in our communities. Greetings to Mr. Elvis and our Dr. Peter from Mutengene. Good evening to you, Peter. Good evening, greetings to all in the house. Mr. Kum Ngwentet sisters writing from Kumba. Sorry for going out of topic. Please, Mr. Kum, read this message till the end. Do you know if one misplaces his or her ordinary and advanced level certificate to get a new one back from the GCA board, one needs to pay 100,000? That is 50,000 francs for ordinary levels and 50,000 francs for advanced level, which is too expensive for a common Cameroonian couple, to the fact that many people from the southwest and northwest are refugees and their houses have been burnt down. Okay, Elvis, thank you. You're writing, Elvis. That is going to be a topic for another day. We are going to look into that. Good evening to you all on the panel. We are talking about putting on the face mask, but you people are not putting it on. If this is the one of the most important methods, why should we remove when talking? Ken is writing from Limbe. Ken, we are seated quite apart. This program usually holds 5 persons per program. We are using 2 because we are seated quite apart. But I want us to look at students are not brought together now because of social distancing. They want to keep them, and the government has opted for what is described today as e-learning and tele-learning. We are also doing it. After this program, you who is watching can learn through the television. Your appreciation of what is happening so far?
That's regarding the issue of e-learning.
E-learning, yes. That is also a method.
Well, you know, the e-learning to me is a good thing. But it is going to be unjust to those who are not part of it. I'm sorry to say that. You know, we have that mechanism of copy and paste. It happens in a government that has nothing to offer. People have what to offer. Before they do copy and paste, they first of all ask themselves, what did country A or country B do at that time when he was carrying out the process of e-learning? What do I mean by that? If my middle prime shortly is going to begin lectures, first, we know that we are targeting end of year exams.
Yeah, that's what we are doing.
We have first school, common entrance is there, Anglophones and Francophones. We have ordinary level, Anglophones for Anglophones, and the other is cap award for Francophones and even Anglophones themselves. A level, you have the same, art, science plus Francophones and back and all the like. Now, these are a number of exams. If you look at their timetable schedule, all of them, for example, they have number of subjects. O level will tell you about 15 subjects. A level, depending on what they are doing, 5 to 6 subjects, and different discipline. Now, Yaoundé says, let's go for e-learning. In the e-learning, what amount of time do we have to put in place those lectures that will cover up the time that is left before we write the exams? Question number 1. That's why I said, I've been asking, what are parliamentarians doing now in the National Assembly? Because they are wasting time there when we have critical issues on board. We have hot files on our table. What are they doing there, even at the Senate? First, they are violating social distancing. 180 of them. What are they doing there? Now, let's come back to the issue of the e-learning. Mr. Leo, you will start your lectures very soon.
No, the lecture started already.
Oh, lecture started already.
After this program, those who are watching us can follow classes, I'm sure. Arithmetic or mathematics for class 6.
For class 6
is going to be aired after this.
All right. What will be aired after this? Have we asked ourselves what will happen to the child who is to write first school and probably the child is in Kombo Abedimo? What happens to the child who will write first school if that child is in far north in Mora, in the areas where electricity supply is epileptic? It means it's injustice, because those who are where there's power will watch what you are saying and you will not come back to it. And why those who don't have light where they are, they will not be able to have it. Point number 1. In another issue, I said, if we had a government serious, they would have been able to create even radio frequencies meant for education. This one is for first school Anglophones alone. That's the timetable full. So that children get up in the morning, they can sit and start learning like they are in the normal class. This other channel created for Francophones. A whole timetable run through. For A level, this one is for science, this one is for arts. Francophones, they have their own channel. A level, they say, when you have about 6 channels to 7, created and divided, with teachers flogging in to give these lectures, it will make some sense. But my main worry now is that, have you been able as a government, talking about e-learning, have you been able to instruct AES personnel that please supply light 24 on 24? I am coming from Boya where we have had power failure for more than a month. Today they give you light after 2 hours, they shut it up. Tomorrow they are giving to Limbe. And when they are giving to Limbe, Boya is not having. When lectures are going on, Boya is missing. The moment they are rationing the light and giving to Boya and giving to Limbe, maybe my 4 Limbe. Downtown Limbe is receiving your lectures, my 4 is not receiving. I call that educational injustice. So, instead of Yaoundé doing copy and paste, because I appreciate you, why? The mission you are doing is out of a patriotic feeling. We must be able to appreciate that. Under normal condition, Yaoundé is supposed to have paid my media prime for making an effort that children should even learn, even if the power failure is epileptic. Is it normal that the loan electricity company we have, we have prioritized it? We would have been saying that, okay, government issues a decree. Light must be supplied, Director General, I'm giving you 24 hours. Rectify power supply in these towns within this time and this time. But now that the loan electricity company, you sold it, you have only a percentage in it. You cannot order that board, because to order them, you must pay them. And Cameroon too, they are stingy. The government is stingy. They have monies to take care of embezzlers who are sick in jail. They have money to do numerous trips abroad. Let them go abroad and let me see. We all suffer the consequences here and know how these hospitals are. Hospitals they refused to equip. So in the e-learning issue, Mr. Leo, while I appreciate you, but I think that even other channels meant only for education. Because look at the time we'll be giving that studies. It's an effort you have done. But how many of those children will still be up? Some might be sleeping. But I'm appreciating the effort you're putting in place. Yeah, because it's first an initiative which is excellently correct.
Yeah, the timetable from 9 a.m. they can follow us.
Okay, you have a rebroadcast.
No, it starts 9 a.m.
All right.
There is 3 p.m. and 9 p.m.
All right.
Every day. And not only on my Media Prime, you can watch it on my movies, English, my movies, French, and my gospel. And
you know why I'm appreciating your move? Because you are using your airspace you would have used for other things. That's money you are putting. If we had a credible government there in Yaoundé, as I said, they don't have communication plan. They only have the time to hold press conferences and fight political parties. Survival Initiative Cameroon, don't put money here, don't go up and down. That's all they know. Like somebody just wrote there. There are Africans being tormented in China. Ghana has responded. Other Africans are responding. Our own country is only to have the iron fist to hit hard on the people they are supposed to pamper. Is that not absolute wickedness? That in the period of e-learning, somebody, I do online marketing. For the next past 3 months, I've been unable to carry out perfect communication without seizure. Because in the Zoom conference calls, you have epileptic supply of network. So everything in Cameroon needs to be overhauled and done all over again. Okay. In this midst, where are we going? Government is not serious.
In this midst, where are we going? Certainly we are going forward because we are. It's a length writing from Yaoundé. Good evening, Mr. Leo. I'm very happy to hear you again. We just need to know that our government is not serious, which makes the population to feel as if there is no coronavirus. That is, they are not following their words. Thank you, Mr. Leo. Greet me, the Kangaroo Man written by Baba in Yaoundé. Baba, good evening to you. I'll take 3 messages. Good evening to you all in the studio. The government have found a new market in COVID-19. People are unable to buy face masks, but government will squeeze 6,000 francs. Chloe is writing from Tico. Good evening, dear panelists. It is past time we lay blames. Let us all treat the issue as if we are all infected and thank God for not having it. Bill Collins is writing. Amy writing from Jotin. Mr. Leo, good evening. I'm in line with the Kangaroo Man. when you are caught without a face mask and you are asked to pay 6,000 and 2,000, where does it go to? Will it enter private pockets? Emil, good evening to you. Hope Jotin is doing well this evening. Good evening, moderator, and everyone in the studio. I think the e-learning thing is just to frustrate students who are not in the examination classes. Good evening, Mr. Leo. My worry goes with the aspect of paying money should in case you don't have a face mask. Are we looking for a means to quick fight this COVID-19 pandemic, or we want to give another means for the policemen to fit fat again? Can I read the message? Now, doctor, I want us to talk about your situation as a doctor and other doctors in Cameroon. How well protected are you as you are faced with this, because you are very exposed? People may be sick of the COVID-19, but they come consulting thinking that they just have cough or maybe malaria, and you are exposed. How protected are you people? What special dispositions have been given to the medical corps today in this context?
Well, in the context of the CBC, I will speak in the context of the CBC because I don't know much about what's happening in the government. I really do not want to say. But in the context of the CBC, I think even all over the world, they're experiencing shortages of personal protective equipment. They're experiencing shortages of masks, experiencing shortages of gowns. But at our disposal, we have these things. We have the masks, we have the gowns, we have disposable gloves that we can use. So I would say that we are making do with what we have available. Because we cannot just stay in our houses and let the patient. I won't say we have the maximum protective equipment that we have, that we need. And it is not even because the hospital is not trying to acquire them. That's why I'm also very worried, because now it's not even